if you're involved with spirituality or the spiritual path at all, or any sort of like Eastern spirituality, you may have heard a term known as renunciation. And if you don't know what that is, basically, it's letting go of your attachments to things in the world and your desires, and not being so caught up in this world. And immediately when we hear that, he's a renunciate, or I'm going to renunciate that, or renounce, or however you describe it. We think it means I gotta go, like, I'm trying to get enlightened. I gotta get out of this world, and I'm gonna go sit in a cave and meditate, because that's renunciation. That's how you let go of your attachments, or any sort of desires that can lead us deeper into attachment, like sex and drugs and a bad diet, like overeating or eating not very healthy food. We think in renunciation, in getting over the desires to these things, stop it. I'm renouncing, if that's even what you'd call it. I'm renouncing sex, so I'm never gonna have sex again. I'm gonna become celibate, engage in celibacy. Or drugs, I'm renouncing drugs, so I'm never gonna do drugs again. No more drugs for me. Or renouncing overly sugary foods, or like meat or something, like I'm never eating meat again. No more meat, no more sugary foods, no more desserts. This is my diet. It can also be called like abstinence. You could think of it as abstinence. But the thing is, the attachment and the desire to these things isn't in the act of the thing itself. It isn't the very act of doing it that is the attachment. The attachment is inside of us. The attachment is inside of us. The desire is inside of us. We are attached to our desires, and we desire these foods. We desire sex or lust. We desire drugs and getting high. That you do it has nothing to do with your attachment to it. So when we think of renunciation, it doesn't even have to be abstinence. I'm not doing that anymore. That's not the idea. That's the mistake. Or when we think of renouncing our attachment to life itself, when you really get deep, then you think you take up some sort of ascetic lifestyle where, okay, I'm gonna go sit in a cave, I'm gonna drink just a cup of milk a day, that's it, and that's how I'm gonna get enlightened. That is a mistake. That is a mistake of the intellectual mind trying to understand this idea of attachment, what it is to be attached to something, or to put it in the big picture, to be attached to this world, because that's really what it is we have an attachment to feeling good. And the ways we go about trying to feel good and seeking the goodness, we think it's out here. We think it's the drug or the activity or a relationship or like having sex or something. I can't think of, I mean, there's plenty of things we're all attached to, you know. Some can be more lighthearted, other things can be quite negative. But we think we're attached to this world, you know. We can become attached to meditation. We get attached to the peace that comes about only when we let go of our attachment, and we let go and we really sit with the moment and dive in or dive out. It's not a directional thing, it's just being and letting the mind be. A peace arises, a peace that has nothing to do with what you're even doing. It's what is. You are in peace. You are peace or love or this moment. And problems and what I gotta do and what I should do and what I shouldn't do and what I need to be happy is trivial. It's intellectual. It's conceptual. You are okay. But we think we gotta do something. We think we gotta, that's karma. That is the idea, that is the momentum of karma, is the creation we make of what we need to do to be happy and to feel secure and to feel the good feelings that make us forget about the fact that we think we need something, because there it is, I feel good. And renunciation, to try to hold the focal point of what I'm trying to talk about. Renunciation, it doesn't have to do with the activities you're doing. It's an internal thing. It's inside. It's inside. A renunciate, like, just to put it frankly, a renunciate can be getting high out of his mind on drugs and having sex every other day and indulging in a horrible diet or doing all the sorts of things that you think you shouldn't do when you're a spiritual person. A renunciate can do that and not be attached to it, not be in the attachment to it. To put it simply, he's not attached to it regardless of the fact that he's doing it. On the outside, you look at this being and it's like, oh, they're not that spiritual. They're still taking drugs. Oh, look at them in like relationships and look at their diet. And like I said, those are the three main things that are really coming to my mind here is, you know, like sex, drugs, and the food you eat, I guess. And they're good examples because those are things we think I'm spiritual, no more of that. We mistake it and we think it's something, I can't do that. I'm going to push it away because I've renounced that. I'm not attached to that, so I'm going to push it away. But that's a mistake. That's a mistake. It's denial, really. It's denial. Like Ram Dass put it really good. He talks about most people that renounce sex or give up sex and become celibates, they just end up horny celibates, you know? They're just not having sex, that's all. That has nothing to do with their attachment to sex. Or somebody that masturbates a lot. They're just really horny and not masturbating. The not masturbating didn't come out of truly renouncing it. It came out of a rejection of how they are. The no longer having sex or no longer getting in relationships saying love, like that ain't it. That's not, love is a bitch, you know. Relationships, they're all the same. It's not real. That is a rejection. That is a reinterpretation or a misinterpretation of what they think it is to let go of something. But really, they're hurting inside. They're hurting inside because they do believe it. They do want it. They want to, that's the driving karma and force of their being, is to indulge in this world and do these things. And you like sugary food. Eat sugary food, but start by working on the inside out. It's hard, it's way harder to work from the outside in, to push the entire world away so that you can stay spiritual. As Ramana Maharshi put it, he says, what do you think is easier? To cover the whole surface of the earth in leather so that you can walk around barefoot, or to just put shoes on? You know, just put leather on your own feet. Do you cover the whole surface of the earth in leather, or do you just put leather on your own feet? You know, it's about working from this and living with this, living with what you are, which includes your whole trip of who you are and your personality and everything that we've been conditioned to think that we want and need. We've built an entire reality around it. It is our conceptual reality of, I'm gonna do this, I'm not gonna do that. This is what I need, this sucks. This ain't it. That's our reality that we live in, and we try to beat the world into submission, as I've heard it put before. But once again, the renouncing doesn't have to do with what you're doing in the world. The interesting thing is, when you actually renounce something, you may do it or you may not. You may still do it or you might not. Because your legacy and personification of, that's what I do, that's who I am, I do that. You know what I mean? That's part of who I am. I like taking drugs. Like with for me, weed. I literally don't smoke weed anymore. And the past 9 years of my life, I've smoked weed every day. And I had this experience a while back where I took 3 days off smoking weed. I didn't smoke weed for 3 days, and I came home and I smoked some weed, and I got so high that I was like, I don't want to smoke weed anymore. And it just washed away. While, like, I literally don't, I'm not busy not smoking weed. That's the idea. Or to bring sex back up, or masturbating. The horny celibate is somebody that's busy not doing it. They're entirely encapsulated in not doing it. Or like, say you quit smoking cigarettes. This is how I've heard it put by Ram Dass as well. I haven't smoked cigarettes in 5 months, 6 weeks, 12 days, 10 minutes, and 32 seconds. They're busy not smoking. That's their new, they didn't renounce anything, they're rejecting it. They're rejecting it to the degree that it's not, the attachment that's inside is not even falling away. they're still wrapped right up in it. You know what I mean? Not smoking, smoking. Having sex, not having sex. Being in relationships, not being in relationships. Eating meat, not eating meat. That isn't the idea. That isn't the stuff of letting go of attachments. Letting go of attachments is in here. It's in you. And when you let go, when you renounce, when you, in essence, get over it, you do it or you don't do it, and it doesn't make a difference. It doesn't make a difference. Like, I smoke weed sometimes. You know what I mean? And it's not as much a thing. It just, oh, let's smoke some weed, you know? And I get high as fuck. It's like, whoa, this is crazy. I remember why I stopped doing this. And there's no rejection in it. Renouncing the world. I am a renunciate. I've let go of everything. You can only keep that up for so long before you either lose your shit because you're still attached, or you realize how silly you are because you're still attached, because you realize this isn't doing it. Pushing it away didn't do it. And then I do it, and I get caught up in thinking I can't stop, and that's why I pushed it away. Like what do I do? If I don't do it, I suffer. If I do it, I suffer. It's because it's not in the action. It's not in the karma of this existence. It's deeper than that. It's more energetic. It's not intellectual. When you really start to let go, the intellect comes, it develops, it evolves to realize the situation it was putting itself in. This is kind of the idea of Tantra. I've been reading a book on Tantra, and, it's called Introduction to Tantra, so I'm going to introduce you to Tantra, because I have this knack, right when I learn about something, I just got to talk about it. I just got to act like I've been doing it for years, you know what I mean? No, this is the idea of Tantra, which is an Eastern... It's an Eastern spiritual method or technique or upaya. It's definitely not just like having sex and thinking about spirituality while you do it. That is not Tantra. That is probably like 0.0000001% of what Tantra is. Just to say quickly, I've been reading this book, and I decided, how you can follow hashtags on Instagram? I looked up Tantra because, I was like, wow, Tantra is this isn't what I thought it was at all. This is really interesting. And I looked up Tantra to see what it's like, just to follow the hashtag so I can see it in my feed. And all I'm seeing is, body massages and, people, up on each other and talking about sex and relationships, and since I've read this book a bit and seen like, okay, that's more so what Tantra is, and the idea of it, I'm going, oh my God, like that, like we have butchered Tantra. Give it up to the Westerners. Give it up to the Westerners yet again to make something about their own desire systems. Like, Tantra isn't just sitting and yab yum, you know what I'm saying? Like, the idea of Tantra is like, you can think of Buddhism. You go to a Buddhist and you say, I want to be enlightened. And they're really steep. They say, to put it frankly, like, all right, give it up. Let it go. Let everything go. If you want to do that, don't, and it will go. If you want to do that, don't, and it will go. Let go, and focus on your I amness, that you are. That's all that matters. Tune into who you are, and you'll get enlightened. It's that simple. And that's its own trip. But Tantra, more so, you go to a Tantra master or a tantric practitioner and you say, I want to get enlightened. And they say, okay, I get it. You have all these desires and all these attachments, and you're very egoic and very selfish and self-centered, not looking to help this world. And even if you are, there's this sort of spin on it that it's to make you feel righteous and, like I am helping. I'm a good person. They say, I get it. So go on doing what you're doing. Go on taking drugs and having sex and having a horrible diet and being righteous and being egoic and, using the world to your advantage. Carry on. But first of all, be mindful of it. Become aware of what you're doing. Become aware of the predicament you're in. And maybe get some time to meditate in there where you just sit and in this moment. But most importantly, don't push anything away. Don't push anything away. Utilize your desires. Utilize your attachment. Don't reject it. Don't renounce it. Even though one of the 3 principles of Tantra is renunciation, that's really what I'm talking about here. Is they're not saying don't do it. They're not saying don't participate in the world and be human. They're not saying that. But instead try transforming your karmic situation, the life that you are in, into a spiritual practice. That every little thing, the chasing your pleasures and then not getting them, and then you get them and you just explode with euphoria, and the ups and downs, the roller coasters of the moods and emotions and thoughts and overthinking, and then being in peace because you're not thinking that much. Use it all. Use this entire situation you're in as a spiritual, like a generator, like a literal generator of spirituality. All this energy, it's infinite, the infinite energy of this moment right now. Don't just take it at face value. Don't just look into it and think you've got it. Transform it into a spiritual practice. Transform it into a developmental and evolutionary energy. And see, I don't really I'm not going to say I understand Tantra. I'm literally reading a book called Introduction to Tantra. I don't know what it is. But I have this kind of taste of like, okay, I see what they're saying there. And it's different from the stuff that I'm really associated with, which is just like strict, steep Buddhist meditation, focus on your breath, and don't get caught up in your thoughts, even though you're getting caught up in your thoughts. And it's beautiful. Or chanting mantras, like Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum. Or Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram, Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram. Or Om. Hinduism's really, it's right here. It's more active and trippy and dramatic, and bhakti, the idea, that's another thing I really dig, is the devotional singing and crying over how much you love existence and people and your own predicament, and seeing yourself from this externalized point, and just feeling so deeply for yourself. And then I go, that's the stuff I'm used to, you know what I mean? And then I go and read this Tantra book, and a couple minutes before reading the book on Tantra, I didn't really know what Tantra was, and I had this sort of distorted idea that Tantra has something to do with, like, I kind of had the idea that it's to use your desires and transform them into spirituality. And the simplest way to put it was like having sex and thinking of spirituality and how special it is. You know what I mean? But as I'm reading this book, it's like I'm just like opening, like, whoa. I don't read a lot, and maybe I should read more often, because it's beautiful. Like, I was reading this book, and yeah, it's like, this isn't what I thought it was about at all. There's 3 principles in Tantra. Let's see if I can remember them. The first one's renunciation, which I've really been talking about. What the hell is the other one? I don't know. I can only remember one other one right now. See, I'm just getting introduced to Tantra. And I'm pretty sure these are honestly the same as the 3 jewels of Buddhism or something like that. But another one is what's known as Bodhicitta. Bodhicitta. And this is the transformation of selfishness, self-centeredness, into serving everyone and everything else. And the intellect comes in there and says, oh, well, that's just to make the self feel good because it's selfish. But it's way deeper than that. It's a recognition. See, I don't even know how to describe it. It's because it's not intellectual. The masters, like I was saying, when you really get down with something, when you actually understand it, the intellect evolves and is able to shine it outward like a mirror. It's able to reflect the intellectual description of it. But the idea of bodhicitta, and the reason I can't really describe it is because I myself I'm self-centered. I'm self-centered, you know? I take it. A lot of us are. I mean, just look, you know? It's a natural transformation and realization that you are this. So to think I'm enlightened while there are all these things that aren't you, that aren't enlightened, that's a delusion. That's a delusion. This whole thing is you. And you can take the steep, like I said, the steep Buddhist realization that it's already the Buddha. It's already the awakened one. You just have to remember it. You just have to realize it. But even then, if you do, you go down the very same path of realizing I am this. I'm not different or separate from these beings and these animals and this wind that blows right now. To think I'm separate and I'm enlightened and they're not is a mind trip, another mind game. And if I want to really get down with spirituality and get down with this life, I can't exclude myself from all these, myself. You know what I mean? It's trippy. It's really trippy. And that's why it's a natural reaction to help every single other being there is, and to help everything and be there for everything. It's also the idea of the Bodhisattva in Buddhism or even Hinduism. See, they all talk about it. They all sort of cross over in that sense that you're not going to be enlightened unless this whole thing is. It's so hard to describe because it's already enlightenment. We're just having to remember it. You're not going to be enlightened until we all remember it. It's trippy. And you realize, you start to feel beyond the intellect in a more so level of being that you can't just look out for your own good. That's just selfishness, and that's not going to get you anywhere. But you got to let go of that shit and start to realize that all these people around you and all these ants and everything is you. And like, think about when you burn your hand. You don't think, should I? Like, you put your hand in a fire or on a burner. You don't think, should I take my hand off that? Or should I just, like, it's on its own trip. That's not me, whatever. No. You naturally retrieve and help the hand out. And your hand doesn't say, thank you for helping me. Because it's you. It did it. It just did it. And that spontaneity of self-help, self-serving, which should dissolve to this entire world. I see a deer right now. The idea of this self-help in the same way you pull back the burning hand and this hand doesn't say thank you. You help everything in an understanding, a fundamental understanding that it is you. And why wouldn't you look out for it? And to bring back the burning hand, this hand doesn't expect this hand to say thank you. What are you going to give me now? I helped you. I pulled you out of the fire, hand. What are you going to do for me? You don't do that because it's you. You did it. And that's the spontaneity of true compassion and true love is you don't go and help someone out and then say, what are you going to do for me? See, I helped you, really. I really helped you. Don't you think I deserve something? Don't you think I deserve? Come on. Look how much I helped you. That's not it. That's not it. That is personifying compassion and love and honor of this. Is thinking, it's like, come on, God, don't you see me? I'm being good. Like, look at me. I'm being a compassionate bodhisattva. I'm out here being a bodhisattva. What the fuck? Why is everybody not loving me? Why are they not helping me back? It's because you misunderstand it. You're misinterpreting. You're missing the point. And another thing, compassion isn't always soft and sweet and, here, let me help you. That's like the here, let me help you is the nature of it. But it can come out in frustration, in agitation, in what seems like impatience, in what seems like, here, let me help you. I'm helping you, damn it. You know? It doesn't take a form. It doesn't take a form because it's true help. It's true compassion. And compassion itself isn't boxed up as this is what it looks like. All I can say is when you see it, you'll know. When you see it, you'll know. Because it won't matter that they're yelling at you or that they just hit you on the head or if they're being soft and sweet and delicate like a flower. It won't matter because you'll be like, whoa. Like, you'll click or you'll get the belly laugh and you'll go, oh my God, they're kind of right. They kind of have a point. So what that they yelled at me? So what that they're being sweet? It makes sense. And I can't describe it beyond that it doesn't take a specific form, this true bodhicitta. Because think of how you talk to yourself. You're sweet to yourself, and then you're very what could come off as judgmental. You're very like strict with yourself. And it's all the same to help you out in its truest form. It's all the same to wake you up. Without even realizing you're trying to wake yourself up. That's the trip. Like, you can't go around and be like, I'm going to say this to wake them up. I'm going to say this because this will make them get it. That's once again just righteousness, selfishness. It's trippy. It's really trippy. It's really deep. It's not just, okay, that's what I'll do. It's life. It's living life. It's cultivating wisdom over years. I've heard it said, we have trouble getting through the week. We have trouble getting through this month. let alone the kalpas and yugas of reincarnation that we've been going through, because we're so asleep. We're so asleep. And yeah, that's another thing, is this human life right now is so unique, rare, important. Don't mess around. Get spiritual, get real, because this is special. Your pain is very special, and it's teaching you. You are learning so much in this life, even if you don't think you are. If you're busy self-pitying and putting yourself down and blaming this world and full of it and being mean to people and pushing people away, and it's okay, because you are learning so much in this lifetime. Really. Even if it doesn't seem like it. So yeah. Tantra, misunderstanding renunciation, and Bodhicitta. Love you guys. Thank you so much for watching if you did. Have a wonderful rest of your day, or sleep amazingly if it's nighttime. I'll see you guys.